Hi. Wait, where is that? Hmm. Uh, Kira na? Kira na. So, wait. Section G. All right, so I guess that's the limit, no? For those who couldn't not join, I basically just shared a link sa YouTube for live streaming, just so that they can listen to the discussion. So hopefully they can see that, no? Anyway, let's continue with our discussion since we're already down like 10 to 20 minutes. All right, no? So for those of you who are watching here on YouTube, no? Uh, this is the first time I'm streaming anything. No visual aids for you. You just listen to the discussion. Hopefully, you can get some. Hopefully, that's everything. International organizations take on a life of their own. It essentially means that more or less, kumukawas gunang hinahanglan, and then people saw a need for an international Red Cross where everybody can provide medical support to either war-torn countries or countries that have experienced ng mga let's say mga natural disasters, no? So munang international essentially. So muna yung pasabot ang number 4, international organization like their own. Okay? So let's go to the origins of the global system. History, as in human history, people did not always organize themselves as countries. No, I believe I have mentioned this before. For example, the Pilipinas. No, before the Spaniards came, we were not organized country. No, basically mga tribo-tribo ta, and we were either vying for, well, fighting for either territory or resources or hunting grounds or gathering grounds, no? So mo na siya, we were not unified, no? So I guess with the 333 plus years of colonization by Spain, kita nasakota, and we had a sense of unity because of this, no? Tungkol ani, we were more or less, became more or less unified. All right. So that is one of our beginnings. Ngantang we decided, or we actually became a country, no? Himutag initially, no? So similar beginnings, pareha United mo yung nahatabo sa ilaha, wherein uh, originally there were 13 colonies in the United States, or the basically 13 settlements, no? Dili sila connected. Probably one of the oldest kanang New York, kanang diya sa Massachusetts, and so on and so forth, no? Essentially lahi-lahi na silang mga grupo from Europe, no? But then British came and wanted to colonize the whole Americas, no, including Mexico today, no. So basically unite ko na sila because of wanted to serve their own freedom, no. So mo na siya So essentially around the 1700s, no, nahitabo. Okay? So what is the difference between a nation and a state? No? A state refers to a country and its government. And a state has four attributes. No? Number one, it exercises its authority over a specific population called its citizens. Okay? Number two, it governs a specific territory. And number three, a state has a structure of government that crafts various rules that people or society follow. And number four, the state has sovereignty over its own territory. So if you think about it, there are only four things that more or less four you need to take of. No, so of course, once this is a state rather has its own territory with its own population, own government. No, okay. So territory, population, government, no, and they enjoy their own sovereignty. Okay. So again, what is sovereignty? Sovereignty refers to internal and external authority internationally. Basically, yan na ako nabasahon, no? Okay, makabasaron mo, ana. Sovereignty is essentially kanang countries, no? Naa sila'y ilahang own nga way of govern. Dili kakita sa presentation. Well, yes, if you can't see the presentation, maybe you can just read it later on dito sa atong handouts because I have shared it with you. No, I think I have. I won't set up everything or reset up everything na pod kay makuha na ta. Let's try that. Let's try that. No? So anyway, interference or dili sila hilabtan, di sila mahilabtan to criticize. Magkamo criticize libre raman ng mga siya ang sovereignty. All right. So nation different because nation is an imagined community because it is limited because it does not go beyond the given official boundary. And because the rights and responsibilities are mainly the privilege and concern of the citizens of the nations. Okay? So kanang nation, basically what that means is kanang putang nato, it's limited because more or less being a citizen of the state has very strict restrictions. Okay, that's why limited na siya. Ano man, for example, butang na to Christianity, no? The Christian nation. Anyone can join the Christian nation. No? Everyone can be Christian. Pabinyag ratas, bata pa ka, or di ba magpabunyag ka ng gulang na ka. No, whatever the case may be, you just have to follow a few simple requirements, no, certificate and so on and so forth, no, and you can easily become a Christian. No, I think in Muslim community po, it's not that dili mas stricto ang makatoliko kaysa sa Muslim, I believe. I'm not too sure because natoy mga mass conversion po sa una sa Dumaguete. Sayon ra convert to Muslim but to practice it is different, no? But anyway, it's easy to convert to Christianity or to join the Christian nation, no? But however, a Filipino cannot go to the American embassy, no, and just decide to declare that I identify as an American and there magic you are now an American citizen, no? So balisura kaayo na, no? So that is the difference between having a nation on being on a state, no? Okay, so I hope that's clear. Any questions so far from those in those? Any questions? Lara? All right, thank you. Okay, very good. So next, we go to basically as a good gasugod ng sovereignty, no? So sovereignty essentially can be traced back to the present day concept can be traced back to the Treaty of Westphalia. Okay, So kaning Treaty of Westphalia is basically a set of agreements in 648. It was essentially created to end the 30-year war, right? So kaning 30-year war was a war in Europe between the Holy Roman Empire, between Spain, France, Sweden, the Dutch Republic, no, not the others, but no, but essentially ang gaaway kaning tema was the Protestants and the Catholics. Okay? So sila nagkasinabot, away sila, no? So muna ilaha, they wanted to stop the war. So essentially, no, nagama sila aning Treaty of Westphalia, wherein the treaty signers would recognize the sovereignty of each country. So basically, ang control all the domestic affairs, no, each country would be respected, no, and promise ra sila, no, nga di sila manghilabot sa mga affairs anang laing country. Okay? So kaning Westphalian Treaty or the Westphalian system is essentially what provided stability in Europe after the 30-year war. Okay? Until it faced its first major challenge in Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay? So Napoleon Bonaparte believed in spreading the principles of the French Revolution, which is liberty, equality, and fraternity. All right? Ganahan siyang ikalat ni sa tibok Europa, no? And he also disliked, no, kanang the power of kings and nobilities and religion in Europe. No? So the Napoleonic Wars lasted from 1803 to 1815, with Napoleon and his armies marching all over Europe. Every country they conquered, the French implemented the Napoleonic Code. Okay? So kaning Napoleonic Code, it forbade birth privileges, encouraged freedom, and promoted meritocracy in government service. So when we say forbade birth privileges, more or less, adto ni siya mo like sa katong mga kings and mga queens for the ruling class, or well, essentially the leaders of kaning mga European countries, no? Because if you look at history, monarchy manguning nga diri sa Europe. Even karon, no, ang England nagyapon sila king, no? So more or less nga nana na siya sa una. But during those times, the king had ultimate power. Okay? So next, all right. So anyway, no. So this is what Napoleon wanted to solve, no, kanang mga birth privileges. So di siya ganahan nga og unsay, let's say for example, no, because this has happened several times before, ang king moadto gira mamatay dayon ang mabilin or ang iyang successor kay 12 years old, 40 years old, 15 years old nga dili pa mature, iyang mga kagustuhan, no, iyang kahigal or unsa ba mo iyang ipalabi, no. So wa na siya gawrahuna sa kaayuhan sa mga katawhan nga ga-support dapat iyang kwan. So tag-as kay dagko kay mga taxation, no. Walay kanang sakong priso ra, walay sakong hearing, no, yan ana. So dili ganas Napoleon anang time. So that is why he forbade birth privileges during this time, no, and encourage freedom. And when we talk about promoting meritocracy in the government service, kanang meritocracy is more or less you will be assigned, dili assigned, no, you will be put in that position of government based on your merit, no. So sa unsay imong nabal-an, either education ba, imong qualifications essentially, no. Dili pwede nang i-appoint ra ka kay igagaw or i-appoint ka kay amigo ka king, no. So mo na kinabawang ni Napoleonic Code. Alright? So this system essentially shocked the monarchies and hereditary elites like the dukes and duchesses of Europe. So they mustered their armies and pushed back against the French emperor. Kaning Anglo and Prussian armies finally defeated Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Okay? So to prevent another war and to keep the systems of privilege, the royal power and to keep the systems of privilege, the royal powers created a new system that in effect restored the Westphalian system. So that is when the Concert of Europe was created. Okay? So Concert of Europe sought to restore the sovereignty of states, no? So kaning Concert of Europe basically was an alliance of the great powers of monarchies, no, of kings and queens, of duchess and duchy, mga Dutch and duchess, no. This included the kingdom, more or less, modern day Germany na siya. Okay. All right, no, very good. Okay, so modern day Prussia, no. So the Concert of Europe wanted to restore the monarchical powers, no? Ganun sila mabalik. Okay? So it sought to restore the sovereign states under what is called the Metternich system. Okay? So the Metternich system was essentially kanang muna siya concert of. Okay, so the concert's power lasted from 1815 to 1914 until sa World War I. Okay? So kaning ato ang mga international systems karon kanang United Nations, kanang ASEAN and so on and so forth, no? Naagyapon na siya yung mga traces, no? O kanang unsay kasabutan aning Concert of Europe or aning Metternich system. Okay? Tingnan nato i-detalye but essentially ang pinaka-importante ra gud ana is kanang sovereignty, no? Dili maghilabtanay sa unsay dili imuha. All right? So mao ra na siya. So any questions so far? Wala. Okay, people in YouTube, maka-chat ra mo na may questions. YouTube, maka-chat ra mo na may questions. Or naminaw ba mo? Or wala ra? Or naminaw ba mo? Or wala ra? Okay, so anyway, let's continue. So next we go to internationalism, no? So duga ka klaseng internationalism, no? But basically kaning the Westphalian system and or the Concert of Europe system essentially divided the worlds into separate sovereign entities. Muna siya nakatunga-tunga sa Europe, no? Now, since the existence of this interstate system, no, there have been attempts to transcend it, no. Although there are others who have imagined a heightened, more probably a better interaction between various sovereign states, no. But particularly, the desire for greater cooperation and unity among states and peoples, no. Kanang desire nga ganahan sila nga naatay mas maayo og cooperation, no, mas maayo, mas magkasinabtanay ta, mao na siya ginatawag nato og internationalism. Okay, the desire for cooperation among different states which were probably former enemies, they want to become allies, no, muna siya more or less example of internationalism. Okay, so duha ka klaseng internationalism. One is liberal internationalism and the second is socialist internationalism. So kanang liberal internationalism at unahon, no? So the first major thinker of liberal internationalism was the late 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant, no? According to Immanuel Kant, kanang mga global systems murag pareha na sa akong gingon ganiya nga murag i-localize ra nila unta, no. When you think about it, kita diri sa locals nato or ato ang local government, mo nay ga provide og peace and order sa ato ang citizens, mo nay ga provide og welfare, mo nay ga provide sa ato ang judiciary, no, sa atong mga court systems, no. So if that is needed to maintain peace and order in smaller countries or smaller states, essentially that should also apply to the world, no. Dapat ang kalibutan naapod siya'y kanang international nga government. So, muna panghuna-huna ni Immanuel Kant. Okay? So, writing in the late 18th century as well, British philosopher Jeremy Bentham, who coined the phrase international in 1780, advocated the creation of international law, which would govern the interstate relations. Okay? So muna siya timani si Immanuel Kant, muna siya unang gahuna-huna og world governance kay tungod kinahanglan magani ng gagmayng lugar o gobyerno samot na niya sa tibuok kalibutan. Okay? So ka Jeremy Bentham po, diyang contribution is creation of the word rather international, and also siya mo'y ga-advocate para magama ng international law. Okay. Moving on. So the first thinker to reconcile nationalism with liberal internationalism, okay, was Giuseppe Mazzini. Okay? So kanis Giuseppe Mazzini is a Italian patriot ni siya. Okay? He was both an advocate of kanang para niya ganahan siyang i-unify ng mga Italian-speaking countries, mga Italian-speaking states rather, and he was also a heavy critic of the Metternich system. Okay? Kay dili po siya ganahan sa powers katong birth privileges, no? Katong appointment of non-competent government employees, no? Kay tungod kaila sila sa king and so on and so forth. So munay ganahan ni munay gi-criticize ni Giuseppe Mazzini, no? So iyang ang gi-propose ni Mazzini kay naay mga free nations nga mag-cooperate sila, magtabanganay sila. So essentially that is why mo na siya ginatawag og mo na siya iyang basis for international cooperation or internationalization, no? Pero dapat first of all ang mga countries nga ga-cooperate kay mga free countries, no? Not under the control of kings, of queens nga magbuot ug unsay ilang ganahan ug mangluod, di tibuok country mo suffer. Di ba? Dapat munang ganahan siya nga na ay more or less democracy. Okay? So munay ka Mazzini. So Mazzini was a nationalist internationalist who believed that free unified nation states should be the basis of global cooperation. Okay? So Mazzini also influenced former US President Woodrow Wilson, who became one of the 20th century's most prominent internationalists. Okay? So, kani si Wilson, ang para niya, nationalism was murag basis yun. Muna yung unang basis yun, no? So, nationalism is, of course, love for your own country, no? So, kanang nationalism, dapat, according to Wilson, nationalism should be a prerequisite for internationalism, no? Okay, to put it simply, how can you cooperate with other countries kung dili nimo love imong country? No, murag unsay kasiguraduhan nato nga dili nimo ibaligya ang imong own country, no, to other countries. So dapat ikaw mahigugmaon gud ka or patriotic ka sa imong countries so that when you interact with other countries, ang imong ganahang mahitabo is for the betterment of your own country, no? Dili ka mo taksil sa imong country ibaligya nimo og other country. So murag inganana ang basis ni Woodrow Wilson for nationalism being a prerequisite for internationalism. Okay? Kani si Woodrow Wilson, mo po ni siya, mo'y nag-advocate siya para the creation of the League of Nations. Okay? So what is the League of Nations? Kaning League of Nations mo ni siya predecessor or mo ni siya gauna prior to the United Nations was established. Okay? So it was established in 1919 after World War I under the Treaty of Versailles to promote international cooperation and to achieve peace and security. All right? Pero essentially, the League of Nations failed. Well, from what I can see, tungod kay wala sila wala sila military power, of course, muna number one. Number two, ilara pong giuyon-uyunan si Hitler atong time, no? So, after World War I, Germany, of course, was one of the defeated countries sa World War I pod atong time. So, as with any defeated countries, there were heavy restrictions implemented upon them. No, usa ka implementation ana is kinahanglan pa sila magbayad og kanang murag reparations for the war nga ilahang napildihan. Number two, gilimit ang ilahang creation of kanang kanang mga military powers, no, or military productions, gilimit ilahang mga sundalo, no. So muna yung nahitabo nila. So essentially ang nahitabo sa Germany was they experienced the Great Depression or their own Great Depression sa ilahang country, no. So muna naka-rise to power si Hitler kay iyang gisaaran ng mga Germans nga iyahang ibalik ang former glory sa Germany, namatod pa niya. Pero when he decided to invade other countries, and when he decided to kill all the Jews in his countries and put them into concentration camps, the League essentially did nothing. No, sila yung nabuhat ana. No, it was more or less the French, the British who stood up to them, and later on the United States ni appeal kay tungod sa Pearl Harbor, but that's a different story. All right. So anyway, the League of Nations was helpless to prevent the onset and the intensification of World War II. And the League of Nations was the concretization of the concepts of liberal internationalism. All right, so from Immanuel Kant, nakuha niya ang pag-emphasize the need to form common international principles. From Giuseppe Mazzini, it enshrined the principles of cooperation and respect among nation states. From Wilson, it called for democracy and self-determination. No? So these ideas would reassert themselves or mogawas na puning similar ideas in the creation of the United Nations in 1946. Okay? So muna siya yung nahitabo sa liberal internationalism. Okay? So muna yung pagkalat sa more or less democracy and internationalism. All right. Any questions so far? Any questions? Wala ra? Wala? All right. Sige. Okay. Sige. Very good. So let's just finish the socialist internationalism. Dayon maniud to na ta, no? So dali ra ni siya kay ano man. Socialist internationalism was essentially influenced by very few people, no? More or less Karl Marx, no? If you read this kaning balingtaasan akong gigama ngano dagay ni ato pamaguning pandemic. Anyway, one of Mazzini's biggest critics was the German socialist philosopher Karl Marx, who was also an internationalist, but he differed from the former because he did not believe in nationalism. Okay? Muna ni siya diferensya sa liberal internationalism o sa socialist internationalism. Okay? So, Marx believed that any true form of internationalism should deliberately reject nationalism which rooted people in domestic concerns instead of global ones. Okay, ug binisayon na siya ug naay nationalism ng mga tawo, no? Magproblema ng mga tawo sa local, no, or sa imuhang country, dili sa international sila magproblema or problema sa kalibutan. Okay? So, I don't know what asa siya nakauna-una ana, no? But essentially Marx placed a premium on economic equality, no? He did not divide the world into countries but into classes. So muna siya, if imong timan ana siya, no, ang socialism o ang liberalism, no, ganahan siya og freedom og democracy, no. Ang socialism is more or less rooted in division, no. So dividing the world into the capitalist class or the bourgeoisie, which referred to the owners of factories, companies, and other production, and the working class or the proletariat, uh, which included those who did not own the means of production but instead worked for the capitalist. Okay? So Marx, with his co-author Friedrich Engels, believed that in a socialist revolution seeking to overthrow the state and alter the economy. Okay? So essentially, wala gyud kita si Marx nga nahitabo ning ingon ani, no? Kay iya nang murag mga Marxist na followers na, no, ang nagkuan ani with help of the more or less mga Russians, no? So the Socialist International, no? So Socialist International mo po ni siya murag mga international organizations with socialism or with the spread of socialism and communism in mind, no? So if ang League of Nations, United Nations, ang ilahang concern was the spread of democracy, kani sila ilahang concern is the spread of socialism or communism, no? So although short-lived, Socialist International's achievements include the declaration of May 1 as Labor Day, the creation of an International Women's Day, and the successful campaign for an 8-hour workday. Okay? So sa una, more or less 12 hours mo na trabaho, 7 to 7, no? 12 to 14 hours mo na trabaho, no? But because of the push of the Socialist International, kanang mga what we call mga labor unions, no, mo na sila murag more or less basis na sila for the socialism, pero dili gyud na ingon nga komunista na sila, no. They are only looking out for the welfare of the workers. All right, so as the Socialist International collapsed, a more radical version emerged in the so-called Russian Revolution. Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown and replaced by a revolutionary government led by the Bolshevik Party and its leader, Ilyich Ulyanov, or better known as Vladimir Lenin. Okay? So this new state was called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, no? To encourage these socialist revolutions across the world, Vladimir Lenin established Comintern, or Communist International, in 1919. Okay? So kaning Comintern essentially mura ni sila mga secret agent butang nato, no, magpasulod sila og mga tigpagubot sa hunahuna sa mga trabahante nga huy giapi mo, pangapil mo, pang revolusyon mo, no, kontrahan ng inyong mga amo nga kapitalista. So inganana ng Comintern essentially, no, magpasulod sila og mga ahente nila para makalat ang communism. Slowly but surely, it was essentially effective kay nasakop man nila almost kanang all the Slavic countries, no, or mga Slavic countries, mga Yugoslavia, mga Ukraine, no, ilamang pong nakuha. All right? So many of the world states feared Comintern, no, believing that it was working in secret to stir up revolutions in their country, which was true, no. A problem arose in World War II, no, when the Soviet Union joined the Allied powers in 1941, no. So after the war, however, Joseph Stalin re-established Comintern as the Communist Information Bureau, or Cominform, no? So with same principles ra gyapon, magpasulod og mga ahente mo to stir up trouble, no, para ra gyapon because essentially although ni kauban ang Russia with the United States and Britain, which are capitalists, no, it was for their mutual benefit to defeat Hitler, who was a fascist, no, who was against who was against socialism. All right. So with the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, whatever existing thoughts about communist internationalism also disappeared, no? For the post-war period, however, liberal internationalism would once again be ascendant, and the best evidence of this is the rise of the United Nations governance. All right? So that is essentially the history of why we have our world governance. Murag abridged version na siya ng anong naanta United Nations. But of course, currently kabalo man ta nga uh, dili gyud end all and be all and dili gyud almighty ng United Nations, no? Kay if that were the case, na tatay peace on earth, no, kada Pasko, wala tay gira, di ba? Mo na yato ang kahimtang karon. But anyway, di na nato sa isa na ko i-discuss ng United Nations. I will leave that for assignment lang kay medyo taas-taas kay tag bakasyon, no. Assignment lang nako. You can read about it more or less, no. But essentially kabalo naman tagon sa ikwanana. Ang I'd like to focus later on the different branches of the United Nations probably and its main function. But I think I've already given an assignment to that to some of you, no? So, mora to siya. Are there any questions regarding the internationalism, so socialist internationalism and liberal internationalism? Yes, Zafran? Question? Lara? No, sir. All right. Okay, no. So if there are no questions, no, tambay ra mo sa or paabot ra mo kuan sa Google Classroom nato, no. I will be posting an activity there uh, probably after tingkalalag na, no. Tuesday, I think Tuesday klase pa man unta ta mag-online sa katong ako ang Tuesday classes, no. Pero I'll probably just be leaving an activity sa Google Classroom, no? Di na tamang meet online for those who are in my Tuesday class. Okay? So for those who are still awake and for those who are still here, please turn on your camera so that I can provide documentation for the attendance today. All right. That's it. Thank you very much for spending your 1 hour with me here in Saturday now. Oh, by the way, once I'm done with giving you the reading assignment for the United Nations, we'll have our midterms. No? Midterm nato kay online ra. No? Address Google Classroom. Okay? All right. So anyway, uh, question na kay PM sa Messenger, Partosa. O man lagi. Wala pa ka. Ngano ni yung kamukha mo? Hindi ka kahatag. Sige. All right, no. So if there are no questions, thank you everyone. I will see you in a few weeks. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. Bye. All right. Katong na diri sa YouTube. All right. Katong na diri sa YouTube. I guess basahan yung notes then look at Google Classroom. I will see you in a few weeks. All right, midterms will be online only. Bye.